So I'm James Tryon. I'm the lead training, well, I'm the LearnDash training specialist here. Uh, I have been using WordPress since 2007. I'm the lead organizer of WordCamp Orlando. I'm ambassador of Wapoo's. Wapoo is the unofficial mascot of WordPress. I have 3 kids. I love my family, and I love toys, maybe just a little less. You can find me on Twitter, James Tryon, or since you're already part of this webinar, you're probably part of our fantastic Facebook group, and you can find me on there. What we'll cover today is the benefits of offering a subscription course, frequently asked questions, setting up WooCommerce subscriptions, setting up subscriptions products and linking them to courses, and rural use cases. Below are some of the links that we're going to be referencing. Throughout the presentation, I'm also going to be referencing some other links, and they'll be listed. A link to the slides will probably be sent out to with the recording. So before we jump into subscriptions, there's a couple different pricing models, and there's about 5. There's probably a lot more, but based off of the current research I was doing, we got about 5 of them. A one-time payment, reoccurring payment, bundle pricing, commissions, and free. They all have their place. They're all pretty good, and I think at certain points we're probably going to do webinars on all of them. Today we're going to be talking about reoccurring pricing. But I think you can benefit or leverage all of these in a proper structure to be able to offer a couple free courses that entice someone to take a larger course, or bring on a second teacher or multiple teachers and share the commission with them based on how they perform, or you can bundle everything together and sell them like a membership. So you don't have to stick to one, but today we're going to be focusing on reoccurring payments. Okay, so some of you probably are familiar with Laura Lynch. She's our content writer for our blog, and I was talking to her a little bit about some of the subscriptions, pros and cons. She's been doing a lot of writing on this the past couple of years, and this is some info that she shared with me. A couple of things that you want to keep in mind is a subscription course is going to provide you a steady source of income. As you build those users, more than likely they're going to stick around, and then each month it's going to grow and grow as long as you're continuing to market that. The problem is you also have to justify that cost to any current users who have signed up for that. So that means the work that goes into it, you have to constantly do more work, provide more courses, keep them involved, create new content. So it's a give and take. Along with the a lower monthly barrier fees, you also have the problem where you might have a lot of people who come in and because it's lower, they might not stick around, or they might come in for a month or two, and you might actually need someone to stick around for several months in order to break even or make profit. So you do want to be careful when you're pricing and not to go too low, but a subscription course does offer a lower barrier of entry, which you could get more exposure, and if you've got a good course, that isn't really something you should have to worry about too much. You also want to be careful that whatever you are doing, that you're providing a good resource and benefit to your group, because just because you have something there, maybe you might want to offer a little bit more, or a little bit extra, like we were saying, like a good newsletter where you're having a private blog that's only going to those subscription users, or maybe you might have a Facebook group, or this webinar isn't necessarily about membership sites, but you could even offer forums or private groups or other things like that that would help subsidize some of that ongoing. So we'll keep going because we have a lot to cover. Sorry. Okay, cool. The benefits of using WooCommerce, this is from the last webinar, is once you have a small, so let me start over. LearnDash itself can handle mostly everything. In fact, LearnDash can even handle subscriptions. But if you want to offer uh, coupon codes, or if you want to offer more points of contact, or set up some type of newsletter enrollment, you're going to want a larger platform or something that offers a little bit more than that. And that's what we usually turn to, or WooCommerce is one of those options that will work for that. There's lots of others that will also work, but we're talking about WooCommerce today. But anyways, using WooCommerce, you have access to the community. You have access to premium plugins, which we're talking about today. You can extend with custom functionality. You have plenty of gateways. You have like the bundling and the coupons like we talked about. But today, we're talking about WooCommerce subscriptions. Some of the features that WooCommerce subscriptions has, you have auto renew, you have mini or single subscriptions, variable subscriptions. You can manage subscriptions from an admin perspective, or you as the user who has subscriptions can manage them. If you allow it, a user can upgrade or downgrade their account at any point. You can offer free trials. You can offer sign-up fees, coupon codes that are unique to subscription products. You have a couple more touch point emails. You have the ability to synchronize product payments, so all your payments can happen on certain days, or however you might want to handle your accounting. And WooCommerce subscriptions was recently bought by Automatic, which is one of the largest companies that help run the WordPress group. So if you wanted a WooCommerce subscriptions product type, that we offer several different product types that you could pick from. You have the physical or virtual product, which means you can just sell courses with it, or you can also sell courses with collateral. Let's say you're starting and you need to send a binder or some notebooks, or you want to send a new sweater because it's your school sweater and anyone who signs up, they get this. So you can actually set up an actual physical product to sell with a subscription that gets sent out and then triggers courses. You have downloadable products. You have drip downloadable products. So downloadable products should be like a PDF or even media, photos, anything like that. But a drip downloadable product means that you're going to be adding something to your course every month, and your users cannot just go in and get it. They have to wait for the next payment to happen before they can go and they get those new features. Limited lockdown, which means you can let your users have one subscription of your entire site. So sometimes people will set it up as a membership site and only allow one thing, and they're really only selling membership levels, so they don't want multiple people doing that. Or you can set up your subscriptions as a membership. So you're using it sort of like a gateway, and you're allowing people to sign up to access bundles of courses, levels of courses, all your courses, or single courses. Also, WooCommerce subscriptions plays well with others, which these are some other premium plugins. A lot of us use these. It's pretty compatible. It's one of the largest compatible plugins that I've used. I've used it on several projects, and it's surprising. Even when it isn't compatible, it's written to the WordPress standard, so it's very easily extendable. You just create a product type of subscription and a couple little other hooks, and you can tie right into it if you know what you're doing. So it is pretty easy if you understand the documentation. A couple frequently asked questions that we get a lot of times is, do you need a third-party plugin? I covered this a little bit earlier. No, you don't. Again, LearnDash does offer subscriptions right out of the box if you tie into PayPal or Stripe or something like one of the base ones. We also get the question, what happens if a payment fails? So if a payment does fail, the user is removed from that course, or can't access that course until they pay again. Once they pay again, they get access to it, and then it moves on. And sometimes we're asked, what happens if we want somebody to continue to have access to the course after they've paid? So instead of it being an ongoing monthly fee or a yearly fee. What it really is more like a payment plan, and they pay for 6 months or a year, and then they get access to that collateral for however long. And that is also supported, but that does require a filter to turn off the non-payment safety. So some use cases, some basic ongoing subscriptions, micro subscription. A micro subscription is like a small course, something you're taking over the course of a month or maybe 3 to 6 months or something small. Payment plans, simple memberships, online courses with course material. That's if you were actually selling or shipping something as well. Subscription boxes are big with WooCommerce and WooCommerce subscriptions in case you were doing something like that. And you can even bundle subscriptions. So the cool thing here is, let's say you have several levels of courses that you want to offer. Some of them might be an intro course, or some of them might have some other added collateral, or might come with a state certification or something that's more expensive. Well, you can bundle subscriptions together, and let's say you have 3 different courses. Each of those different courses, and I'm jumping a little ahead here, but all of them can have their own setup fees or no fees. All of them could renew on different dates or different times. So one can renew every week, one can renew every month, and one can renew every year. And that can all be part of the same bundle, and they can check out at the same point, and all of that. So that works out of the box with WooCommerce subscriptions if that's something you're interested in. Some fun ways to sell and offer courses. Okay, so what we're going to talk about now is actually setting up and installing WooCommerce. So WooCommerce subscriptions. Now, it's just like any other plugin. I would recommend, if you're going to do this, make sure you're in a testing environment, you have backups of everything, and you're good to go. So you want to make sure that you buy the plugin, upload it to your repo, activate it, and configure it. And it sounds like, oh, it's that simple. Well, for the most part, it pretty much is. And I'll go over some of that in a moment with you. So let's just take a look. So what I'm going to do now is the next couple slides, I want to jump between the settings and the actual the slides and go over the details there. So if you were to install this, all you would actually have to do is go to plugins. And I'm not going to go over the whole thing. Everything I'm doing is already set up and working, but I just want to show you. So if I go to plugins, add new, I can upload my zip that I downloaded from WooCommerce here, and then it would install, and then I would come back over here to plugins. It would ask me, first off, it would ask me if I wanted to activate it from this screen, but I'm just going to show you. We'll come back over here, and I would click activate if it wasn't. And what that's going to do is it's going to give us this new subscriptions area here. If we had any active subscriptions, they would show up here. And then it's going to give us a new tab in our WooCommerce settings. So that's what we want to go over now. Is the next 4 slides are just this. So I want to talk about this over here. And I want a larger monitor, so I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit. Okay, so by default, I turned it on. There's a couple small things you have to change, but you really don't have to change much. And if you have basic PayPal set up, in fact, you don't have to change anything. It will work. If you don't fully configure PayPal, you will lose out on some of the settings. But by default, basic PayPal setup, installed, activated, that's all the real configuring you have to do. The rest of it just improves your user experience. So I'm not going to go over all of these things because some of them are self-explanatory. If you hover over any of these buttons, they say what they are. There's text underneath. But real quick, user roles. The default user role is subscriber, and an active user role is customer. That's how it is by default. It sets that. LearnDash by default also sets any of their course students enrolled in a course as a subscriber unless they're a group leader. So that's fine. I like to accept manual renewals in case something happens, but you can do this. That's up to you. Sometimes people want to mail in a check, or something happens and they might send a PayPal if you don't have it hooked up, or however it is. Sometimes people pay differently. You might want to be able to offer those things, and by checking accept manual renewals, uh, it takes care of that for you. Uh, a couple other things I like to turn on is, I think it's at the bottom. I want to, yeah, here it is. I want to make sure that any failed payments are tried again. So by default, this is not checked. I like to check this, so I make sure that no matter if it fails, the system tries again and make sure that it wasn't just an accident or a fluke or whatnot. PayPal usually automatically retries this every 3 days, so I would check that. If you ever want to allow your customers to suspend their account or pause their account, you can change that here. Customer suspension, you can give them how many times you want to allow them to pause their account in between renewals. That's up to you. I usually set that to 0 and have that be a case-by-case basis. The rest of these settings are really just up to you. I wouldn't worry about them too much. I would recommend to read through everything. There's a very detailed document and guide on how to set all this stuff up. But again, you don't have to mess with that. I would recommend the 2 settings that I showed you, making sure that the failed attempts is tried again and making sure that auto renewal is set. And for the most part, that's pretty much it for the actual subscription settings. There is payment settings that we'll talk about in a moment. Okay, so one of the really nice things about WooCommerce and WooCommerce subscriptions is there's over 30 supported gateways. On top of that, there's a very nice API. It also supports authorized.net. So on top of the open API where you can make your own, a lot of times credit unions or small banks will tie into like an authorized.net, which makes it even easier. But one of my go-to favorites is usually PayPal or Stripe when dealing with subscriptions. But again, if you need it, that API is very easy to extend and add your own gateway. And let's keep going. So setting up the PayPal, to be honest, this is probably the trickiest part about all of this. And now I was going to walk through this, but then it required logging into my PayPal, and I felt a little bit overwhelmed at first. And then I actually just went through the documentation, and it really wasn't that bad. It took me about 2 minutes. So this is the link. It's the same link, PayPal standard. And it'll actually walk you through how to do everything you need down here, starting to activate this. So earlier when I said, if you do not set this up, you don't get all the features, but it will work. What I mean is you will be able to subscribe and get subscription payments via PayPal, but you will not be able to allow your customers to modify or change or switch subscriptions unless you have these settings set up. And in order to do that, you really log into your account, you go to your API settings, and you toggle one thing on, and you're going to get 3 keys. And then another area, you turn something on, and you tell it that this is the API gateway URL you need. So this would be your site, followed by this. And again, I felt a little bit overwhelmed at first, but reading this, it was really easy. It worked the first time, under 5 minutes. And now our demo site has the ability to have customers change and update their subscriptions at any point now that that's actually hooked up. So again, it's pretty easy. It did seem overwhelming at first, but it took under 5 minutes. All the instructions were right here, and even the GIFs show you exactly what to do. We can watch this for a second. You click the button, you put in the URL, You hit save and you're done. That's step one, or two. This is step one. This one's pretty easy too. You go to your account settings. You're going to go to API access. Then you're going to go down to the MVP SOAP API integration. Hit agree, and that's it. It's going to give you your 3 keys. Now, there's one drawback from using PayPal. If you're using PayPal, you can only have subscriptions on one PayPal account. If you're using Stripe, you can have multiple subscriptions under one Stripe account. So if you set this up and tie this to your account with PayPal, this is the only site that you can sell subscriptions on with this PayPal account. Now, you can still set up multiple accounts to take your PayPal for other things, just not WooCommerce subscriptions. Now, the same thing with Stripe. Again, I was going to go through the documentation, but Stripe's actually a little easier, and it's right here. This is going to be unique to you. I'd be happy to go into detail or help anyone if they really did need it, but these 13 steps are it. They tell you and walk you through how to do it, what you need to do through the Stripe's API to get your key in order to allow it to work. So be happy to set that up if someone wanted a more detailed review, but I don't think it's needed. The document will walk you right through it. Okay, so now what we're going to do is talk about setting up some basic subscriptions with courses. A basic subscription allows you to choose a payment schedule, a length. It lets you set things like if the subscription expires, if there's a setup fee, if there's sales prices, do you need to charge tax, is there a free trial, is this a limited subscription, and if there's any type of shipping involved. Now, one little disclaimer since we're here, if you're offering any type of free shipping or free trial, and you're also offering shipping, that doesn't necessarily work. You can't have a free trial and set up shipping for those two things. The free trial is going to mess up the setup fee of the shipping, but that's a small thing. So what we're going to do too is I'm going to show you this, and then we're going to show a couple things, and then we'll go and actually show you in the admin, so it might help a little bit more. So this is a basic product, and then we're going to talk about variable products. But the problem with variable products is they require creating attributes. So let's go look at the products. Let's check out the simple subscription product first. I already have this set up just for ease of use. So you're going to have to set up all the basic stuff, like the title, the description, price, category. All those things are still needed. But we're talking about just the subscription aspect. If this is a course, a virtual product, something that's downloaded, you want to check virtual. If you don't, it's going to try to include shipping. And since you're not actually shipping something, you don't want to mess with that. If you can see the shipping tab on the left, that goes away when I click virtual. This is a simple subscription. I have a price set to $1 every month. It's never going to expire. If I wanted to change this, I can say I want this to be every 2 months, every 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, or day, month, year. And I can say it expires in 1 month up to 24 months. I can offer a setup fee. I can offer a free trial, sales price, if it's taxable or not. And then, just like our other course, as long as you have the LearnDash WooCommerce add-on enabled, you're going to get this nice little course list that all you have to do is click in here, and it's going to show you all available courses. So you can make subscriptions for single products. You can make it for single courses. You can bundle it and add all your courses. You can make it so it's full access to everything. So yeah, so it's a nice little function here that if you add the other plugin, you can now stacks with WooCommerce subscriptions, so you can offer that. Excuse me. Now, if I go back to products and I look at the subscriptions products with payment options, let's go take a look at this in the front end too. What I did is I set up an attribute to allow annual, every 2 months, 3 months, monthly, twice a year. This is arbitrary. This could have been colors. This could have been sizes. This could have been anything. All I did is I told WooCommerce, that I want to add a second attribute that lets me tie variations to a product and also make those courses. So by changing this, you can see that for annual, I have it set to $1,000. And if I have it every 2 months, it's going to be $240. Every 3 months, $360. So there's a little bit of a difference. In fact, the annual one, if you buy it, you get access to an extra course, and you get 2 months free. So let me show you that. So if I'm looking at what I had to do in order to make a variation, a variable subscription, is I had to select it here from this drop down. So let me go to do one other thing just to explain this attributes. So if I come down to this product that we haven't made it a variable subscription, you're going to see that there's no variation and there's no attributes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to attributes. Now you can do this directly inside attributes here. I like to do it in its own window. So if you go product attributes, you can type in, this is just an example, so I'm going to say color. If I hit add and I don't add a slug, WordPress is going to automatically generate the slug for me. Then I want to come over here, click on the new attribute that I added, color, and now I can add the actual variations. Blue, green, red. Okay, so now we're going to go back to our products, and we have our variations. Our attributes and our variations. So now we're going to come over back to the product. Now this is just for an example. We're not actually going to make this a subscription, but I want to show you how to add the attributes. So I want to come over here to variable subscriptions. I want to come to attributes. And I want to pick color because that's the one we just created. I want to click add. What that's going to do is bring up the actual list of that, and I want to select all. Now I could go in here and do a smart search and click just the ones that I wanted. Now I'm also going to select use as variations. Hit save attributes. Now come over to variations. I want to click add attribute, add variations, and then I want to create variations for all attributes. Now, if I had a huge list, it's only going to create 50 of them. That's what this warning is saying. If I had more than 50, I would just come and do this a couple times. It's created all 3 variations for me. Now I can hit expand, and now I can see that just like my simple product, a simple variation, I also have all my actual settings here as well.
And you know what this would be nice for too is if you had a course that you wanted to offer different payment like options for people. That could be something that you do in the variation. Is that right, James?
That's true. Let me jump back over to the one I did earlier that's actually finished so we can see what that would look like. So also you can see that these aren't really in order. So let me drag that. So you'll see these three little lines. That means I can grab it and drag it. And if I hit expand, it's going to open all of them. So what we can see here is I have this one saying that there's 2 courses selected. It's $120 every month and it expires never. This one is $240 every 2 months and it expires never. This one is $360 every 3 months. You can get there's about a $10 difference in between these because you're giving someone a larger chance to pay off that bill or different payment options. But since you're doing that, you might want to work that or entice them to pay the larger one. So if you can see here, twice a year is $600. That's a break even. That's $100 a month. But then for the actual annual one, I said that's $1,000, so they're getting 2 free months in the description, and then I gave them an extra course. Now you could set this up so you gave all of the courses if you wanted to, so however you wanted to do that.
Yeah, I think you touched on a great point, and I want to reiterate that for folks that are thinking about variable products for their courses. It's okay if you just want to offer an incentive based on just the price, like maybe give them a little bit of a discount, but you have to make that incentive large enough where somebody's going to be enticed to actually sign up for it. And what James pointed out with giving an extra course and then getting 2 months free if they pay annually, that is something that I feel like you're going to see a lot of people opt for, or at least be intrigued by when you're creating your variable. So the point is, when you create variable courses, offerings for your courses, make them different enough so people are enticed to go for those maybe higher tiered plans. Don't just make it like $10 difference between each one, because then the value isn't explained there or isn't expressed between the different payment options. So I would recommend what James demonstrated. Make it a enticing enough deal financially, but then also throw in some extra things, some bonuses. It could be a course, it could be something like a physical product, maybe coaching calls, etc.
Yeah, I totally agree. Also, these names could be whatever you wanted them to be. I was just giving examples. I probably wouldn't say that twice a year. I'd probably make them all the same, 1 month, 2 months, or however. But it was just examples so you guys can see how you can actually modify or change any of these things. So a couple really nice things that come with WooCommerce subscriptions is you get the ability to offer new coupon codes based off of subscriptions only. So you can do it off the reoccurring. You can offer a discount on reoccurring pricing. You can offer a discount on a percent off that. So you can say, I want to give them $10 off, or you can say, I want to give them 10% off. You can do the same thing for sign-up fees. You can give discounts on sign-up fees, or you can give percents off sign-up fees. There is something that's really cool that I actually just learned about yesterday, which is a limited payment coupons. Now, I knew about this, but I didn't really think about it how I'm about to explain it. And this is a cool feature. So in case you wanted to give somebody a unique promo code or unique code just to them, and you wanted to say, okay, I want to give you access to my courses, but with this promo code, I want to give you $20 off for 6 months. Now, the subscription's still a year, but for the first 6 months, they're going to get $20 off. So how you do that is you make a unique coupon just for them, and you set the use limit to 6. So that's going to automatically add that promo code every time you go for renewal, and when that reaches the limit, it's going to automatically stop giving you the discount and then charge them full price. So if you spend that little bit of time to make a unique promo code, you can do that. Now, there's other plugins that'll generate bulk promo codes and let you do all that and send it to Groupon if you want. And that is definitely possible, but the idea is a limited time promo code to entice your users to sign up, and then over the course of the whole membership, they end up paying the full price at the end. So a couple things. I know we're running a little over time. I want to get to everyone's questions. You can manage your subscriptions in the admin. This is the admin view. You also have the ability to sort and filter. You can set subscriptions on hold, cancel, pending, all right here from the admin. The same thing with users. This is what a My Account subscriptions would look like. So the My Accounts view from the front end, they have recent orders currently if you're using WooCommerce, and now you're going to have a My Subscriptions, which looks just the same as the recent orders, except you have a couple more options. Now, earlier when I was saying, depending on how you have your PayPal set up, is what kind of settings you get. If you don't have all your PayPal settings set up, you're not going to get all these buttons. But if you did go through that extra step, the extra 10 minutes to go through that document and set up the proper API calls, you do get the ability to cancel and change your subscription directly from your My Accounts page. If you click on this, so if you click on View, you're going to see this. And then when you click on any of these, you're going to go down a little bit further, and this is another example of upgrading or downgrading your subscriptions. If you have it set up correctly and you have the settings in the admin set to allow users to change their subscription level, and at any point, these buttons will show. One of the nice things about WooCommerce subscriptions is a user, if you allow it, can change their level at any point. It will prorate or charge whatever is left, or refund if they quit or leave based on how many days are left in the cycle until the next billing period. So it's smart enough to handle all that for you if you want to allow refunds. Refunds just require one more URL to be set in the API. Here's some short codes. This My Subscriptions thing, that's a short code. It's generated automatically to your My Accounts page, but if you want to put it somewhere else, you can. There's a couple filters, user ID, status, and you can modify that. Email, you have a couple of new emails. You're going to have a renewal email, a failed payment, a subscription status and switch status, and an additional subscription email. So with WooCommerce subscriptions, you get 4 more emails. You can modify these from the admin. This is a list of some of the WooCommerce emails. At the bottom, you can change your colors, some of the basic settings and whatnot. There is premium plugins you can extend this, but the default system will get you pretty far. And if you click on any of those new emails, this is what it looks like. So that's our presentation. Pretty quick overview on how to configure and set up WooCommerce subscriptions. I think we have a couple minutes for questions.
Yeah, we have a minute or two for questions. I mean, we have one here that I'll get to in a minute, but thanks, James, for going over this, and thank you, everybody, for attending. This is, as you can see, can get very granular and complicated based on how you want to offer your courses. But the answers are all there, and if you have any questions on these later, you can always post to our community. You can submit something to WooCommerce. They'd be a great resource for this. But it really gives you the most flexibility with how you offer your courses. At least that's what we like to tell people. If they have ideas for different offerings for their courses, or they anticipate that in the future they're going to want to modify their offering, maybe from just a single course sale to something more elaborate with different coupon codes like James mentioned, and limited time subscriptions, various plans, WooCommerce is the way to go. So with that, there was one question that we're getting. We have one here from Brett. So how many URLs can you use the WooCommerce subscription service on? James?
It's not a service, it's a plugin. Well, I mean, I guess it could tie into WooCommerce, and if you wanted to go as far as to turn on all that stuff, but you would buy it from WooCommerce, and you would install it, and it's your plugin. It's based off licenses. It is GPL, but it's yours, and you would buy it from WooCommerce. So there isn't any type of built-in limit. But in theory, it's one per license that you would buy, if that answers your question. But there isn't any type of like limit or configuration on how you want to sell it. A couple things too, though, I want to point out that this is supposed to be a setup intro to WooCommerce subscriptions. WooCommerce subscriptions is a great tool to take your courses to the next level. What I would also include in that is probably look at some type of membership level or some other add-on stuff in the future that would extend, that works really well and ties directly into WooCommerce subscriptions. So the same thing with like an affiliate system would tie directly into WooCommerce subscriptions, or WooCommerce itself. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. The only other question I think we have that I want to make sure that you have a chance to address, James, is you mentioned earlier about a fundamental difference between using PayPal, which I think most folks will use, and then using Stripe, in terms of a limitation between the subscriptions. You kind of went through it a little quickly because you had other content to get through. If you could go back to that and just maybe explain again the difference between using PayPal and Stripe. You mentioned, I think it was something with PayPal, you can only use that on one site. So if I had a PayPal account, I could only use that account, those subscriptions, on one site, whereas with my Stripe, I could have multiple sites and use that Stripe account. Am I framing that correctly, or how would you explain that?
You almost got it. So PayPal doesn't limit you on setting up your PayPal to multiple WooCommerce sites. I do that on a couple sites. But what they do limit you is, because I think it's an older API. If you noticed, even in the screenshots of the GIF, it said Classic API. The API that uses the subscriptions in PayPal only allows one site to be keyed in at a time. So if you want to offer subscriptions on multiple websites, you're going to have to open multiple PayPal accounts. If you want to offer the ability to pay with PayPal on multiple websites, not subscriptions, that's fine. If you want to offer multiple subscriptions from one account, I would recommend using Stripe. So Stripe allows multiple different URLs connected to one account. PayPal will only allow one URL connected to a subscription account.
Got it. Okay, that makes it a little bit more clear, at least for me. With that, I want to thank everybody again for coming and for joining this webinar. We'll be posting a replay of this for those of you that attended, and then we'll be chatting in our Facebook group. If you have any ideas for additional topics you'd like to see James cover, please submit them there, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thanks, everyone.